A. George Orwell's novella Animal Farm was published in 1945. It functions as an allegory, but is also a potent political satire. Initially, the book seems rather simple and childish, almost like a Disney movie with a large cast of cute little talking animal critters who rise up against a cruel farmer and begin controlling the farm themselves, until they start brutally murdering one another. While the parallels to the historical events around the Russian Revolution are interesting, I personally appreciate how Orwell distills particular types of people in these animal characters and explores how they deal with the changes and struggles they endure. The pampered and privileged are represented by Molly, a white mare who likes ribbons in her hair and always finds an excuse to shirk responsibility. The cynical are represented by Benjamin the donkey, who doesn't exhibit any enthusiasm for change and cryptically points out that donkeys live a long time, suggesting that he's old enough to know that progress does not necessarily result in improvement. And then there is poor, foolish Boxer, who is so dedicated and loyal and so blind to what's going on around him. Poor Boxer. Like the Russian Revolution under Lenin and Stalin, things do not ultimately improve for the animals on the farm. The pigs who lead the rebellion quickly become corrupt and betray the ideals they initially claimed to uphold. They come to resemble and even eclipse the greed and cruelty that they once opposed. Like Orwell's other great masterpiece, there is something timeless about Animal Farm. It's about an ideal that tumbles and twists into a nightmare. It's about the past, but as we read it, we can't help but see our present reflected in it, along with some uncomfortable but salient warnings about our future.
The first time I read this book over 20 years ago, it was from this Penguin mass market edition. It features an illustration of the flag described in the story, along with the windmill and farm buildings, Mr. Jones's gun, and some apples along the bottom. It's fine, but it's old and small, and I'm too fancy these days to read a pocketbook. Animal Farm is a classic that lends itself so well to illustrations, so when I had the chance to upgrade to a more deluxe version of such an important book, I had to take it. So let's do this. And here we have Animal Farm from the Folio Society. This version was originally released in 1984, and it has seen many printings over the years. Mine happens to be the 17th printing from 2012. It's presented in a plain light brown paper slipcase with a curved open edge, and it has a wonderful wraparound cover designed by Quentin Blake. The front features two tan pigs, perhaps Napoleon and Snowball, with a third, Squealer, on the back. The pigs are set against a pink washed backdrop which is printed on cloth-covered boards. On the spine, we note the author, the title, and the publisher name, all in gold. Because the book has seen so many printings, there are some variants. It also has a cream-colored and an orange slipcase, and the spine lettering was different for the first 12 printings, while the dimensions changed slightly at this 17th printing. The binding is finished here with black and white head and tail bands. When we crack the book open, we see plain, pale, pink end papers in a medium stock. The book is printed on Abbey wove paper, which is smooth due to the fine wire mesh used in its production. Color swatches indicate that this paper isn't quite ultra white, but is instead a pale coffee tone. If we bring back the Penguin Pocketbook edition for a brief side-by-side, we can see that the Folio Society version is obviously much bigger, with 5 centimeters more in both the height and width. The font size isn't any larger, but the darker and crisper printing on the higher quality paper of the Folio version clearly improves readability. Unlike most modern folio novels, there is no introduction here, which is unfortunate. I'd love to have seen a unique intro or even Orwell's proposed preface, an essay called The Freedom of the Press, which was thought lost until it was rediscovered 27 years after the book was first published. The legendary Sir Quentin Blake provides 27 black and white interior illustrations here. He's illustrated over 300 children's books, and his distinct style is familiar to many from his drawings for the Roald Dahl books. He's also done a lot of work with the Folio Society itself, including the illustrations for their version of Don Quixote. His work here consists of loose and expressive pen and ink drawings that look like they've been accentuated with quick touches of graphite. The illustrations are integrated throughout the text and range from half-page to whole-page pieces, and they've been laid out in a variety of ways on the pages. Let's take a detailed look at the artwork now. The first illustration, the frontispiece, is of a pig walking on its hind legs. Right away we can see the impressive variety in the line weights that contribute to the character here. Mr. Blake employs very bold lines, medium weight lines, and very fine lines in his pen and ink drawings. The next piece is of Old Major, up on a platform, sharing his dream with the other animals by lamplight. The third illustration is a depiction of Mr. Jones all drunk reading his newspaper, with Moses the Raven feasting on crusts of bread soaked in beer. Then we have a 2-page spread along the bottom third of these pages, which conveys the energy and chaos of the Midsummer Rebellion. The fifth illustration is of Snowball going up the ladder to paint the 7 commandments, and we can read the pride on the pigs' faces here. The sixth image depicts the first harvest. The ducks and chickens are in the foreground, dutifully picking up stray grain, as Boxer and Clover harvest in the background. Then we get a drawing of Snowball working on plans in the harness room. Next is this wonderful illustration of Muriel the goat reading to the others. Here is Squealer manipulating the other animals through his careful words and the skipping and tail whisking, which is part of his convincing delivery. This is Boxer dominating and overwhelming the human forces with his great strength during the Battle of the Cowshed. In this picture, Snowball is dedicated to his studies as he works out the windmill plans, consulting books and drawing diagrams in chalk. There's a great attention to detail here, as Blake has even included the rock which Orwell describes, used to keep the reference books opened as Snowball works. This image depicts the constant debates between Napoleon and Snowball, as each looks to build up more support for their approach with the other animals on the farm. Snowball is the far better speaker and generates greater support for himself through these debates, while the gruffer Napoleon looks to secure support through other means. This 2-page spread along the upper third depicts Napoleon using his attack dogs to chase Snowball from the farm. Here is Napoleon making deals with Mr. Whymper, who will become Animal Farm's go-between for trade with humans in the outside world. In this piece, the animals toil away on the construction of the windmill, which was Snowball's plan that Napoleon originally opposed, but which he now encourages. The hens protest the egg contract, which was proposed by Mr. Whymper and supported by Napoleon in order to secure outside supplies for the farm. Napoleon and his dogs search for traces of Snowball, who now becomes the all-purpose political scapegoat. He's rumored to be plotting against Animal Farm from afar. Napoleon's dogs drag 4 pigs before him. You can note the bleeding ears and the look of fear in their eyes. They experience a forced confession and are executed. This leads to more confessions, executions, and a pile of corpses at Napoleon's feet. Here we see Napoleon marching, aloof with his snout in the air, and the black cockerel that functions as his trumpeter out in front. This illustration features more excellent attention to the textual detail, as Napoleon lies, wearing both his official decorations, on a raised bed of straw, and has the other animals parade past to inspect the banknotes he's received from the sale of the farm's timber. The money is stacked on a china dish, and I love the look of this floppy duck who casually checks over his shoulder. Here the pigs are recovering the morning after their first evening of whiskey drinking. It's like the walk of shame. In this illustration, the other animals catch the curious scent of cooking barley as the pigs begin to endeavor to make beer for their own consumption. Moses the Raven returns to the farm and continues to tell the tales of the mystical sugar candy mountain. Here is Benjamin the donkey, upset and panicking as the humans come to take Boxer away from the farm. The emotion is strong in this drawing, and the sense of movement is kinetic. Towards the end of the novel, the pigs use more and more intimidation to exercise their total control of the farm. They're backed by fierce dogs, and they now stand on hind legs and carry whips in their trotters. There's so much character here on the face of the sheep as they bleed out 4 legs good, 2 legs better, as the other animals cower in terror at the sight of the pigs walking around like men on their hind legs. The final image is of a man and a pig, which is appropriate as the novella's final chilling passage indicates that the other animals can no longer distinguish between the pigs and the men, as they have come to resemble each other in every way. I am so happy with this edition of Animal Farm. There are some older Folio Society books that I feel are badly in need of an overhaul or an update, but there are a few that have become classic releases in their own right. This is one of the latter. From the cover to the interior illustrations, this is one of the older folio books that can stay exactly as is. We can hunt down the illustrated version from Ralph Steadman or the recently released version from Suntup Press if we want something with edgier or more contemporary art. But there's a certain classic charm with the Folio Society's version, and with 18 printings of it, I'm sure we'll continue to see it released. As for my old paperback edition, it's the box of doom, because with Folio's classic illustrated edition of Animal Farm now on my shelf, I can make more room for more great books. As always, thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for future videos. When it comes to the stories you love, it's always worth upgrading your books.